Good evening, everyone. Just before we get started today, I just wanted to say a few words. What a lot of people don't actually realise is that this week we celebrated our first birthday of the Club Racing UK podcast. However, what we also learnt this week was the other side of club racing in general. It's been a tragic weekend and we've lost two great, wonderful individuals within the club racing scene. So this episode on our first birthday is dedicated to Martin Shepherd and to Mick Nichols. Let's start the show. So we should have everyone in now. Good evening. Welcome to the Club Racing UK podcast for what is episode 8 of season 2 in 2021. Joining us is the usual crew of Stefan Marsh and Nick Holmes, and you may notice something a bit different. They've moved house just to freshen things up for the podcast.
Just to add a bit of difference and a bit of change.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to add a bit of difference. And we've also got two fabulous guests on, a couple of guys well known within the club racing fraternity. And that, of course, is Scott Woodwiss. And Chris, you may have heard him refer to me as Mr. Plough over the weekend. Didn't you, Chris? Hang on.
I think we've lost Chris.
He's
muted already.
He was being
sorry. My fault. I was told to say it, Your Honour.
I know who exactly told you to say it, and I'll get you back, Mr. Neville. Don't you worry about that. So we're going to start the show off tonight. I had to make that intro. What a lot of people didn't realise this week, we've been doing this podcast for over a year. Isn't that awesome? It's this week.
I did not know that. I did not know that. How good is that?
I know. I kept it as a surprise. But again,
that is a year of my life that I'm never going to get back.
Well, we had to find some way of bloody dealing with COVID, didn't we? So
I've got plenty of. Whoa! Hold on a minute. We've got smushy stuff going on the show.
Just saying goodnight to my daughter.
That's cool.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
right,
so
that's fine.
So yes, a year of being on everyone's screens, mumbling random crap about club racing. But we must start tonight. I did mention it in the monologue, and we just had to mention it. This weekend, we lost two fantastic people from the club racing fraternity. Mick Nichols, tragically, as everyone now knows, was testing on Friday at Cadwell Park, fell ill, and sadly passed away as a result. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Maxine and Stuart. We know you guys tune into the show. I think Maxine is actually watching this evening. So everyone at Club Racing UK, we send our love to you and the family. It's absolutely tragic. Keep racing in his honour. And we hope to see you guys back on the grid soon.
Definitely.
And then it came through, sadly, on Saturday night. Now, we've known that Martin Shepherd has been fighting for a while after a tragic accident. And sadly, on Saturday night, it was told that he lost that fight as well at the age of 24. Taken so young. We've had tributes through from Haas and from the Mercedes Grand Prix team, who he worked for as well. Many people, the Classic Touring Car Racing Club and the Classic VW Cup that he raced with as well, and his lovely little white Vento, which we should have a picture of. There we go.
There it is. Look at that, proper race car. It's got a boot and everything.
A proper race car. But again, if to Mark Shepherd and the family, everyone who knew him within the club racing fraternity, we send our absolute love and prayers to you guys from everyone at Club Racing UK. And again, to say it again, we're dedicating this show for you guys, true club racers. We will miss you. Right. We're going to turn it around a bit tonight, guys. We're not going to do the racing roundup first. We're going to do that later because we are going to get right into it.
Oh, well, my script's all backwards now.
I know. I know.
To be fair, Steph, we're to blame
pages.
for this, aren't we?
I know we are.
Okay, so we're going to save
Well,
the racing roundup until later because there is a lot of.
Actually, well, let's put it to everyone who's watching and everyone who has listened to shows in the past. Obviously, we do the racing roundup and all of that and the news and things like that. And then we get into our discussion. So we thought we'd mix it up tonight. But let us know what you think. If you prefer the racing roundups first, news, etc., and then the discussional topic, or what? Just let us know. Whichever one works best for you guys.
Well, actually, what we'll start with.
I just think this one's going to be a bit meaty tonight. So I figured if we got the conversation flowing quickly, get everybody into it.
It is very meaty, but before we start, we did cover him last week on the Partner Photos. Andrew at MJ Race Engines. What a lot of people don't realise is they actually do the work for Car SOS, the well-known TV show on National Geographic and on Channel 4. Well, this week, Andrew very kindly sent us in a shout-out from two people you may recognise. Can we play the video? Please? No, the other video.
Right, this is a huge shout out. Ah! There you go. That was for Club Racing UK from Fuzzbot.
Yep, and from Timmy.
Well, I haven't done one yet, though.
Well, do it.
Well, this is for bringing all the racing together and stuff. And the podcast, which is great. Do you want me to do one?
Yeah, this is for you guys. Yeah, weird.
There we go. So there's a twosome there from Car SOS that started filming for their new series this week at the workshop there. So thank you very much to and the guys at MJ Racing for that.
Thank you very much, guys. That is very, very cool.
Did not expect that at all. So yeah, catch their new series. It's on More 4 and on National Geographic showing now. Right. So today's main debate, it was the most voted for by when we put the description up. We wanted people to vote for what they wanted to talk about. And I noticed last night, Chris Dawes, you were quite annoyed at some of the comments to do with this. So by rights, now
he's already shaking his head.
He's already shaking his head. He's not very happy. And I love the fact that we're going to give you this platform. You can say exactly what you're thinking, Chris. So you warm up now.
Just remember, on this show, we're impartial, so no holds barred. Say what you want.
I was only really shaking my head because, to be honest with you, I broke my own rule. Is that because of the nature of what I do, being so public, is I try to keep reactions and opinions on social media to an absolute minimum, and I just couldn't control it anymore on this one. And I know we're going to get into the fact that it is closed doors, whether it should be, how we're going to overcome it, yada yada, and that's a key point. But last night's my frustration was the ignorance and stupidity of people aiming their irk in the wrong damn direction. It's like the circuits and the racing clubs and everybody like that, they're trying their damnedest, like they're having to do all this with one hand tied behind their back. And I mean, Castle Coombe had to put a post up to reiterate that May the 3rd, the Bank Holiday Monday race meet, is unfortunately now going to have to be behind closed doors. Now, we knew this, what was that, 2 weeks ago they changed all of that? Yeah, and it was just known that was what the government suddenly forced on us, and they were getting so many calls, so many emails, so many horrible comments coming into the office that they had to put a public one out. And then you suddenly look, and because I'm involved obviously with Castle Coombe Circuit, is I was able to see some of the comments that were removed. And it just staggered me. I mean, you're talking like someone turned around and said, "Oh, I thought spectators were outside." Well, I'm not going back to there again then. Sorry. What? Yeah. Damn you, Castle Coombe, for being forced to do something, and I know that I've seen the MSV circuits have taken it. I'm sure Scott and the crew at BRSCC will have taken it from people that just seem to aim it at the wrong people. You're talking Castle Coombe will get 6,000 spectators at a reasonable meet, not a brilliant one, not a poor one, as in a soggy wet one. We'll still get 6,000 there, and you're talking like what, 15 quid per adult It's, the circuit are bleeding. All circuits are bleeding. It's still a family-run circuit, and they're doing an amazing job keeping it going. Then the other one being is they turned round and said that. Sorry, I just had another gin brought up for me. She could hear I'm getting on my high horse now.
I didn't expect anything less in Chris's class, knowing him as long as I have.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I tell you what.
In fact, I'd even be tempted to say the fact that if anything that Chris said last night probably could have been blamed on somebody called Gordon.
I don't drink that cheap anymore, mate.
You've moved up in the world.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. I mean, I tell you what, I'm going to do this every time that I refer to what somebody said. So I've just done the fact that somebody said about they're not going there again. So I'm going to put that. That's bang out of order. Hey, because that cheers me up just with that crap joke.
Oh, Jesus. That's good.
But another one is that someone turned around and said,
That's especially tickled Nick, that one.
We won't refer to the fact that it took a little while, though, Nick. We'll leave that one go.
No, we won't. I was like, what's that stand for? Oh, wait, no. Penny drop.
But someone also said, how come? Oh, they've got so the race meet. We can't go to those, but they've got a car boot sale on at the circuit. And somebody replied to them, said, yeah, but that's nothing to do with Motorsport UK that have been forced to not release permits for these events for for spectators and whatever else. Oh, well, then if, they shouldn't be having car boot sales then, because then that will, when we do eventually come back, they'll be infecting everybody else. And it just went on this really, really weird, messed up tangent that you couldn't make up. So, again, it was bang out of order constantly. And it was just more and more comments being deleted. And it's just like, why are people aiming? I've had to do Coombe TV shows to try and, last year really, try and explain the situation, calm people down and say, look, this isn't Castle Coombe Circuit calling the odds. There's some people that feel it's down to interpretation. It's like, well, not really. You always have to err on the side of caution. Otherwise, you can lose your license. We've got residents next door that, will find any reason to complain at every circuit. I don't just mean Coombe, I mean everywhere. We have that issue, don't we? That they're always looking for something to throw that could get it shut down.
Yeah, and it's just so this is what Castle Coombe Circuit put out last night. Due to being inundated with inquiries, we would like to remind you that unfortunately we are not currently allowing any spectators to any activities or events held at the venue. This also applies to the May Day Madness race meeting on the 3rd of May. We will be reviewing this guidance ASAP and will hopefully be able to invite spectators back to the circuit very soon. Even, thank you. But like you said, Chris, it's not as if Castle Coombe are doing this to spite themselves. They're bleeding. 100%. MSC circuits are bleeding. Yep. All of them are.
Well, I mean, do the maths. If you turn around and say, if I also said 4,000, paying for tickets, I think I worked out today that was £60,000 for a day. I know, there's other places they can make some money, but Jesus, that's a hit in their cream crackers, isn't it? If losing that, and that as a circuit in particular, is that's what we've always been very much about. Is it's a real community, and everybody wants to be back there. The streaming that we've been putting on, no one's paying anybody anything for that. That's all being done out of the goodness of our heart, just to try and give something to people because they're being forced to stay away. And it just, some people just don't seem to get it. And it's just, I lost it last night. Rare occasion for me on social media. Normally the wife will sort of buffer that before it goes out. But she was out, so
I like it.
She was out and the gin was in. But it was a valid point, and I think you may have seen the replies that I got, but largely everybody was going, absolutely, well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
all our hands are tied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wife would disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean, quite rightly, Nick. All our hands are tied. It's not just Castle Coombe Race Circuit that are in this situation. No. It was the fact that other people, and they are looking at the fact. I mean, there is a petition that's been gone out. I don't know if you guys have seen it. That gained up to 1,200, 1,300 signatures. And I think the description put in there was with zoos and theme parks allowed back open, we don't see why motorsport fans can't go back to tracks. That's the main point made in the petition. It's okay. It's certainly upset people. But why the hell should that be the circuit's fault? It's the government guidance that's
exactly.
That.
And I mean, that's the two sides to it, isn't it? Is that, last night mine was, you probably got wind, is that, I think it's a ridiculous call that got made that suddenly we weren't able to have spectators in the parkland. What have we got at the minute? In the Crucible, the snooker. There's people in the Crucible watching, and it's like, we can't go to this parkland. I did when you guys were racing at Donington the other week, and of course I was commentating on Mr. Plough and everything, and it was I was up in the commentary box, and we know it's beautiful parkland at Donington Park, as many of them are, and it was take that picture, and it was sort of make a jokey comment going, I can see how we wouldn't be able to socially distance here. And it's almost just like there's ignorance about it, that they don't seem to understand what the story is. But there's nothing going to happen with a petition, because hopefully, touch wood, the 17th of May, it was always in there that up to 4,000 spectators.
By the time it's all gone through, it'll be reopened. But annoyingly, I totally agree with you on that one, Chris. It's an absolute clanger of a decision. I think what's happened is they've almost missed it off the bill and suddenly gone, oh shit, we forgot this. Sod it. No. They've not thought about it.
Yeah, they've just gone spectators
into it. Yeah, they've just gone, no. And it's utter bullshit, to be fair.
Because they thought of spectators, and they've obviously thought of something similar to a Premiership ground where everyone's crammed together like sardines. Well, that's not the case with the circuit. It's very open. You are outside on a banking. Plus the fact, with something like a banking, you can make segregated areas where you have certain areas, wear your masks. If you go in this area, stick a mask on. It's worked for the competitors.
Well, at the tail end of last year, we had, we were able to open up Castle Combe Circuit, and everybody, I mean, they patrol it. I think we even had our own security patrol it, because occasionally the police would come in and patrol as well. And so it was always, let's preempt it. And everybody was brilliant. They were not in bigger groups than 6. Everybody knew the score. Everybody at that point that was there were true fans, and so they were keeping themselves segregated. The paddock couldn't get to the spectator areas. The spectator areas couldn't get to the paddock. We started with just Quarry Corner open. Then by the end of the year, we'd gone all the way round to camp, but we weren't sort of mixing paddock and spectators, which is still hard at Castle Combe, because you probably, if anybody you've been there, that it's very much about. Exactly. So it's able to mix. I mean, fine, if they turn around and say shut the grandstands, which of course we don't have that at Castle Combe anyway, but Donington, Brands Hatch, Silverstone, wherever, fine, shut the grandstands, 100%, not a problem.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. It is a simple decision of saying no seated area, no close proximity seated area, everything else is fine.
Exactly.
Abide by social distancing, and away we go. It's just whoever's in charge of it has literally gone, oh shit, we left this one out. Squash.
They've just thrown it in the whole spectators of sport, haven't they?
Yeah,
exactly.
and they've just assumed
that just mobbed it in there without actually thinking about what's going on.
And they've turned around and said, it doesn't matter if we ain't got it quite right. It's only a month, and then it'll be open anyway, because then that's the clear distinction of spectators, certain numbers of spectators allowed, as long as we do hit that date, of course. But, you think about it, is that the amount of stuff that's suddenly being missed is big. There's no question about it. I would have been commentating at MSV circuits, I think, pretty much every weekend up until that 17th date, but they suddenly turned around and went, right, because there's no spectators, they've like halved the commentary crew, so all of us lost out on a little bit of work, but they've been brilliant in just sort of managing that. We're sort of like limiting how much all does, but it's all these things that people don't realize. That's one part of my living, is from commentating, and we get hit because there's no spectators there, but bless them, they're very good in that they've gone, but we still need something, because there's the competitors, the mechanics, the marshals, the mighty Orange Army there that want to be able to listen to that commentary. I mean, you guys, when you were at Donington, I'm sure you could hear some of the commentary in the background or whatever. And can you imagine if there was nothing and all you would see is when they came back round to you and suddenly go, oh, what the hell happened there?
So it's so important as a competitor when you're racing and you're stood in the pits and and your teammates out and stuff. It's so important to be able to hear what's going on from the commentary, and then you can kind of get a bit of understanding of what's going on in the race, because from the pit lane you can't see sod all really.
No,
you can't really. Anytime they come round, you figure out what position you're in, but knowing what's going on, or there's been an issue or an incident, you can kind of preempt it. It is massively important for us.
Yeah, so lots of people have been impacted by it, haven't they? But they just said, "Oh, it's only a month; it doesn't matter." Well, yeah, it does.
It does. Well, for Castle Combe, how many race events would that be since end of lockdown until this next phase? How many events will that be for Castle Combe that have been closed off to spectators? 2 or 3?
Since the start of lockdown last year, or this?
This lockdown, yeah.
It will be 2. So, because of course there's not masses of race meets, but luckily the first action day, which is massive at the circuit as well, spring action day, that is, I think that's just after the 17th of May date. I'll tell you, because I'm hosting that one on the mic as well.
Which is good, but because my point would be that
22nd of May for that.
So the sort of going by the quick maths that you did earlier, Chris. So effectively, that could be up to 120 grand missing from the Castle Combe circuit coffers, and that really hurts circuits. Which then it just drives the rest of the costs up, because unfortunately the circuit has to recoup that money somehow, or some things have to go.
Well, I mean, just to give you an insight, is that it's even bigger than that in reality, because if you take the rules from the first race meet we had, where you weren't allowed to stay overnight at the circuit, you're not really supposed to stay in hotels because it's work only, and I know some people can blag that one round, Your Honour, but not everybody's suddenly able to do it. So suddenly we had championships that went, nope, we're not coming for that date. I'm sorry, we're pulling out. Yeah. And suddenly the circuit then loses that money from that, or they've got to try and put it there, and they've got to try and move things around. They're always going to lose out something somewhere. And you've got competitors that will just turn around and go, no, I'm not doing it. We then had impact with the fact there was delays to when they could start testing, and no one's going to go racing if their car hasn't even turned a wheel since last year. And so there was people that dropped out, but the circuit suddenly had to try and find a way to get them out on track. But we only had this many days before a race meet, etc. So, the actual behind the scenes knock-on effects are quite significant, and a lot of people don't realise what else it can hit. The DCMS certainly don't.
Yes. And Scott, I'll come to you, Scott. You've been very patient while rants have been going on. I mean, the BRSCC have been hit quite, and not to bag the BRSCC. You guys have had to make decisions to help yourselves and keep yourselves going. So you've had to cancel some meetings so far this year. How much has it affected you guys?
There is a degree of effect, because our season would have originally started back in March, but because of all the restrictions, we've now started in May. So in total, we've actually cancelled 4 race meetings. But the interesting thing is that when we made the decisions that we made, we actually got praise for it by our competitors and people involved, because we actually were looking at the situation ahead and thinking, well, trying to make a judgment on it even before any kind of lockdown route map was made, and saying, look, well, which way is this going to go, and how long can we go, or how realistically can we sort of wait it out until we have to make a decision? And the trouble is, the longer you wait to make that decision nearer to the time, the kind of worse it is for the competitor, because then it's all that uncertainty of thinking, well, as things start to develop, competitors start thinking, well, are we racing? Aren't we racing? Is it worth me booking a hotel? So we had to take decisions which meant that we had to kind of look ahead and think, well, where do we think the situation is going to be? And thankfully, we seem to have got it right so far, and people seem to have agreed with the decision times that we made it. And thankfully, now going forward, it seems that all the progress which is being made with the vaccines and everything else, and how the route map is going, it looks as though, and I say this quite tentatively because we know anything can change, that we're going to kick things off in May, which is a little bit behind everyone else, but we're obviously taking decisions cautiously, because we were ultimately thinking of not just competitors, but also as well to run those race meetings. For example, it's logistics for if there's no overnight stays, how do you get marshals down there, which might not be local to Stetson? What about volunteers and officials and coordinators? what about teams or competitors that aren't local and can't stay at the circuit? I mean, and if they can't do anything like camp at the circuit, it's all those things that came into our mind when we were deciding what to do. So it was definitely wasn't easy. As I had hoped, I hope no one thought it was an easy decision, but ultimately we did what we thought was best for everyone involved in those race meetings, including obviously the competitor. And we just went ahead and decided what we thought was best to do. And we've just been working now to get things started in May. And fingers crossed now, I'm sure Chris will echo the same thing. Once things get underway, as I know you guys already have at Castle Coombe, Chris, we can carry on now and have some kind of more of a normal schedule for a season than we had compared to last year when it was very truncated and very condensed. Getting a season's worth of race, at least half a season's worth of racing normally in a space of 3 or 4 months, which incredibly for most championships they managed to do.
Yeah, it was a fantastic effort last year. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
Go on, Nick.
I think as well, like the decision you guys made, I think it'd be great because the fact that obviously, as Chris mentioned earlier, there's some people that have said, "Oh no, I can't do it," or "I'm going to pull out," and the numbers are wavy. Like I say, with you guys at the BRSCC, it'll just be bang. Hopefully, it'll just be go. And as you say, with the numbers of vaccines and everything kicking in, everything hopefully getting better. I'd like to think you'd be able to hit the ground running and just be smooth sailing for the rest of the year. So,
I'd like to add as well is that picking up on like where Scott made the comment there about saying that thankfully the competitors were all like good and understanding and appreciative. I have to say that 90% for a round figure of Castle Combs were as well. There was a couple that were a bit of a nuisance, but not very many of them. The majority of them were actually, in fact, really supportive, both appreciative of the work. And I don't mean by me, I mean by the racing club, the circuit, the medical crew, everybody to just make it happen so they could get out racing again. Numbers were down a little bit on some of the areas last year, but they've understood the situation. They've understood it. Like making my comments yesterday, it was largely the competitors that were going, "Yep, I 100% agree with you, Chris. We'll be back. We're still there. We understand. We can't wait for it. It's not the circuit's fault." Yada yada. We thank everybody for the work they're doing to make it safe, to make us feel safe. And I don't know if you guys happened to see, but the Easter Monday numbers were pretty darn good considering it was just
huge.
For our local championships, and it was just brilliant to see. Really good.
Yeah. It was great. It was great racing as well.
I have to say just quick. I have to say from a personal point of view is that I always have to admire what Castle Coombe does because. I've been to Castle Coombe I think twice to watch racing, be there. I think both times has been for BRSCC meetings, and I've always admired the amount of local support that Castle Coombe gets, and it's not just. And when Chris, for example, says that Castle Coombe gets an incredible amount of support, that's not just marketing buzz. That's not just talk. It really is. There hasn't been any time I've seen any pictures or any video of Castle Coombe in a regular season. When I think in particular corners like Camp Corner or Quarry, which are the kind of main action corners.
Oh, they're packed.
For a club meeting, and they're absolutely packed, and I can see why because they had such a fantastic local community, and all credit to Castle Coombe Racing Club. The set of champions they've got work, and every time I see a picture, I mean, like the Hot Hatch Championship has like stupid numbers, like 30 plus, even almost 40 cars, which it's packed out grid. So. From a personal standpoint, for me personally, I have to say kudos to Castle Coombe for all the work they do because it's a great thing.
And they never sit still, do they? They never sit still, to be fair. I've got to give them that because, of course, that's where it started for me as a 5-year-old. I grew up like 20 minutes down the road from there. My dad took me up as a 5-year-old to sit at Quarry Corner. And I fell in love with racing, and he and I would be up there all the time. I'd be watching it. Then as a teenager, then I disappeared off to university, from what I can remember. And after that, came back as an adult to watch, and camped over there with my now wife, and things like that. And it's just still loved. And then suddenly, 10 years ago to get the opportunity to join the commentary team, and then I've lost track now, 3 years ago asked to join the Castle Coombe Racing Club board and host their awards nights and all of those things. I'm there going, this is amazing. This is my boyhood team, my boyhood circuit that got me falling in love. I'm now party to this in this way. And I love the commentary because as you say, Scott, the crowd's there, and you know, my style in particular is that I bounce off of crowds. I interact with them on social media. I have a giggle, and at Castle Combe, they're always there, and it does, even if it's raining. I don't know if you guys, even if it's raining,
same.
still have good numbers.
Us British motorsport fans are hardy souls. Literally, even if it's a blizzard, they'll still sit trackside and watch it. And,
well, I mean,
and one thing I was going to just follow up on that one is that to be genuine to the other clubs, that not just talk about credit us as a club and Castle Combe, but other ones like fair play to Bark and to MSV and to 750 and all the clubs, because I think there was a worry at one point, particularly through the pandemic, thinking whilst we're in the first lockdown, thinking, is club racing going to get back to how it was? People are going to have money, people are going to be able to support it. But I think primarily the reason why club racing bounced back the way it did in 2020 is just a very simple fact: is people have been inside for 4 months. They just wanted to race. They just wanted to get out and get in a car and just race. And it was a case of even some of them probably went into championships and series that they might not have been into before, purely because they wanted to get onto a racetrack anywhere that they had space to get it. I mean,
and
the
back
first
to the
few
family
weekends for
as
all the
well.
clubs and championships, I haven't seen, arguably, I haven't seen the majority of the grids that I've seen for pictures of from other champion clubs, and in all throughout last year as well. There probably was hardly any grid that didn't have of what they would class as a healthy entry, because everyone had kept patient and knew that they not only wanted to go racing, but they had to support it, because otherwise, otherwise, if there is no club racing, technically stuff like we wouldn't be sat here and we wouldn't be talking about the seasons that we have. So I think it's credit should go to not to spectators, but also to every single competitor and every single club out there for sticking at it and actually making sure that we can go racing in this country and that grassroots stuff doesn't get forgotten.
100%. And the thing, the bit to talk about with crowds at club racing as well, it's a mouthful. So before COVID,
to be fair, we could talk about clouds, because like last week, we had every type of cloud possible.
Well, we will come to that in the racing roundup. There was one of the races where all 4 seasons came at once, plus a hurricane, plus Noah's Ark, plus you name it. But the main thing to talk about as well in terms of club racing, we've spoke about this before, Nick, and I think we have as well, Stefan. Ordinary club. Now, over the past few years, MSV have been doing a superb job to make themed events and put club racing on as the bill, haven't they? Mm-hmm. Castle Combe have always had fantastic crowds, but there will be club events at Silverstone, for instance, and it's empty. So what can be done to get more crowds back into circuit racing? Because in the 80s and 90s, any club race meeting you used to go to was packed, similar to Combe, whether it was Brands Hatch, Donington, Knockhill, Alton Park, you name it. Even a club meet, a BRSCC Bark 750 was packed. So do you think, as a result of these lockdowns, you're going to get even more people coming trackside just to watch something? Or is it going to go back to the way it was before?
I think it needs to be known, though. Go on, Nick.
Right. So just quickly, can I just add something to that? You say you rewind back to the olden days a bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was absolutely packed, and you had hundreds of people. Like, I'm talking before the days of social media. Now, this is one gripe I don't understand. You used to get thousands of people there every weekend, right? We now live in an age where social media, everybody has social media, right? It's in your pocket. How on earth can clubs, circuits, whoever, not be getting it out to people to come and support your local race series? It's more accessible than it's ever been, so I don't get
a
add
challenge
that to it.
Well, the challenge that we're going to have at the moment is that even when spectators are going to be allowed back to start with for a little while, is that it's got to be advanced ticket purchases only. And I would say that there's a big chunk, when we get the really big crowds, is when you wake up in the morning and you go, what a lovely day. Hold the fort. And whether it's like Nick's comment that says, it was on social media, there's a race up the circuit near us, and go, hold the fort, let's nip up there, let's throw some food in a bag, kids in the back, let's go up there and watch some racing. You can't do that even when spectators return. So we're not going to suddenly see a big boom there. However, my personal opinion is that I think there's going to be an indirect knock-on that's going to work well, is that where a lot more of it is being streamed live on social media and YouTube and everything, is that it's not the be-all and end-all. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not the way the majority of us really want to watch the racing. We want to be there. It's great that we can watch it back, and then those that can't be there can watch it live. However, what it is doing, I think, is introducing to those that have forgotten, those that didn't know, or those that even thought it was something different to not as good as it was, and they suddenly all they know is Formula One or maybe British touring cars, and then they suddenly go, hang on, this is cracking. They're really close. They actually overtake each other. And we have some very funny interviews and what have you. And they suddenly go, I think we quite fancy that.
And I've just spent the last half an hour talking to the guy who runs the car that just won the race.
Yeah.
So exactly.
It's so accessible.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, you've had the idea for absolutely bloody ages, and hopefully we can carry it out at some point, of getting Club Racing UK to certain British Touring Car and British GT events and going, oi, guess what? You can go and take part in these. You can go and watch this for a snippet of what you're watching here today. Because I know when I used to go and watch the British Touring Cars at Thruxton, Mum had to budget, and she took myself, and I went with my sister and friends, and we all went for a big day out at Thruxton, and it cost a bit of money, but for a fraction of that, you can go and watch a BRSCC meeting where there's 2.5 million Mazdas going around Snetterton rubbing doors.
I mean, as you mentioned, it's been on our radar for a while, and annoyingly, it was snowballing nicely, wasn't it, Steph? And then COVID hit.
Damn COVID.
But we will. Our aim is to have a stand at these shows or these race weekends where the big stuff is, and you've got thousands of crowds, thousands of people there, and hopefully we'll have a little stand there with Club Racing UK all over it, with a little TV up there of different snippets from different race weekends, and promote it to the masses is the plan.
Well, yeah, that's really what he's. I mean, I'm going to jump some comments, chat, because Mario's stolen my thunder. I was going to make this as a joke. I think we need a European Super League. So you're not going to have
what club racing version where you take the best club championships from every club and just put them in an exclusive.
Put it behind a paywall for £3.5 billion.
That's all right. I don't watch football, so I heard this comment earlier, but I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, right. Okay, basically very greedy people in football, Nick. That's all you need to know. Simon Court, actually, that's a bit of an ambassador alert. Evening all. It's my first season last year, so all I know is COVID racing. Looking forward to the day where I can actually invite my family and friends to the circuit. Oh, that's gutting, Simon. That is gutting. Alex Goldsmith's watching. Craig Abbott's watching. Taylor Norton is watching this evening. Vicky Pratt. Good evening, everyone.
Evening, everyone. Look at that. We've gone 40 minutes into the show, and you've not even acknowledged our comments or watchers.
We've just gone straight into it this evening. It's been absolutely great to have a really good discussion about this, because it needs to go out there. And bless him, Chris, has the blood pressure come down yet?
I don't know. I can't feel it anymore. The gin's helping, mate.
What's the time, ladies and gentlemen? It's gin o'clock.
Always, mate.
Exactly.
The gin's slowly numbing the pain for Chris.
Mario's commented a new comment in from Mario. All joking aside, I genuinely don't think circuits advertise their events well enough for spectators. The exception for this is Santa Pod. Their events seem to be everywhere online. I think MSV do a fair job as well, and of course Castle Combe do good. They have their own following, which helps. I think MSV do try.
They know when to. They know when to. At the end of the day, it's really, and it's never. The big thing I found, but before all of this, I'm a businessman first, and then I've got into commentating and everything, and so I'm always interested in how it all works, and watching the giants like Jonathan Palmer and MSV and the things they do. And I have the privilege of commentating on, say, something like Blancpain as was, GT World Challenge as is now, and you'd go, well, surely there's going to be like massive crowds, and they'll put loads of effort marketing. No. It doesn't bring in the massive crowds, intriguingly, but they'll go and absolutely hammer. Probably my favourite event to commentate on every year is the American Speed Fest. It's just incredible.
Yes,
the adrenaline. I don't get. I'm not just a commentator. That one. It's like a whole performance almost kind of thing, and which is unusual for me because I'm shy and retiring. But it's that said, is that it really, you have to sort of like just come, like, let everything go. And when I finished the Sunday, I can't leave the circuit straight away. I've got to go and sit down and let the adrenaline disappear before I can make a move, and I've got to just sit there for half hour before I can go. Plus then you've got, say, the mini fest and the
Raw Power Live as an example last year. They get all the car clubs in, and like you say, the mini fest.
It's then got it's got that hook, hasn't it? It's got the hook. Whereas bizarrely is that, it doesn't get the same kind of numbers. That said, the numbers are always bigger than it probably looks like when you see them there, because once they're small enough and they're like we've said, it's ridiculous we can't have spectators there, because you could still have thousands there, a few thousand there, and it'd be so spread out it wouldn't look like it was that many. But I don't know. I don't think it's about the marketing necessarily. They know when's the right time to market.
If I can sort of follow up on that,
money, is it?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the thing with the circuits, and I think primarily it does come down to the circuits, obviously, because I've been in the role that I do at BRCC into the marketing stuff. I will happily go and promote what we've got coming up, and so will all the other clubs. It's mainly down to what the circuits do. It's how they choose to run their business model, because you have to, I think some have to think about it this way in terms of the average family that goes for a day out. It's kind of one of two factors. One, it's kind of they only kind of read typically, and again, I'm not targeting all families with the same brush here, but kind of a typical family kind of budgets for like a big, like say, family outing like once a month or so. So they've got to decide what they're going to do. And so if, for example, they're motorsport fans, whether they know and appreciate club racing or not, ultimately what the circuits will do is they kind of think about, I guess, first and foremost, seems to be their most profitable meetings first in terms of how many people are going to come through the doors. So if you think about it, ones like British touring cars, British superbikes, stuff like brand types like trucks, things like that. It's kind of those are the ones which they're going to push because they know that it's once they've got them in the door, those are most ones that they typically expect to get the most out of. And another factor of it also is that if you see those events like British touring cars and trucks and superbikes, it's the attraction to it is not just the racing. The attraction is also it's also everything else, because you go to a British touring car event, it's not just the racing. You've got, they've got like a fun fair out there. You've got all the different stalls. You've got food stores, everything else, and those kind of big events that they have that plus the racing on top of it as well, and it makes it an entire experience. Whereas as fantastic as club racing is, and this is not me knocking it at all, club racing only has just the racing to entertain. There is no kind of off-track activities for people to watch, and I agree. Club racing is fantastic in all forms, but it has to go up against race weekends where you've got an all-encompassing family experience for people to go up to against. And so, as great as it is, sometimes that's difficult for club racing to have to try and go up against and beat. And so, people then have to choose, thinking, well, do I want to go out for just to go experience one thing, or do I want to go out and experience several things in one weekend where it keeps everyone happy, rather than just someone who enjoys motorsport? So it's a tricky balance they have to make, and it's. I mean, for example, I've always said to people, if someone gave me a ticket for a club race and a British Grand Prix, which one would I go to? And I would go to both for different reasons. And it's that case of I would go to a club race for the racing because I enjoy the racing. It's fantastic. You've got packed program of 15 to 20 races. There's no breaks in between. It's one race done, bang. Next one, bang. Next one, bang. One after the other. You get a bit of break for lunch, and it's constant action. But I think majority of people who go to a British Grand Prix, they don't go there for the race. They go there for the experience and the memory to say, I've been to a Grand Prix. In the same way, I guess, the people who go to British touring cars or British superbikes or British trucks or a bigger event like Chris said, like American Speed Fest or British truck race and things like that. They go because it's the all-encompassing experience and the memory of being at the event, not just the racing that they saw. It might be brilliant on track, but that might not be the first memory they have of it, whether that's the right or wrong way to think about it. So
if you say Scott, about trucks, for example, is that I got a feeling that the trucks go twice to Brands Hatch. And the first one, there won't be big crowds at, but the second one, November, when they do the biggest firework display the whole of the ever has, that's the one that gets the big crowd. So it's like you say, it's not just about the race. And I think the distinction is that if you've got an event, and I've got, my daughter's 9 now, and she would come with my wife and I to whilst I would obviously be working at, say, the Speed Fest. She would have a whale of a time because she'd come and watch, and especially she's got an added thing that she's listening to Daddy talking crap out of the microphone at the speakers. But she would then disappear off, and she'd go on the fun fair. She would go and see the things there. She would, get a candy floss or whatever. Then she'd come back and she'd watch a little bit more. And so there was all sorts of things. You've then got, you're talking about 4 Power Live. The circuit then go and sell the space on the outside for all these show cars to come. But in itself, not only do they get money there, it attracts people in to come and see these show cars and watch a bit of racing. So the club racing, in its truest sense, is for the racers, whereas these shows are at least as much, if not slightly more, for the spectators, which is why for the club racing, you kind of more often than not get the true race fans that, like you were saying, Scott, is that we know how fun it's going to be. You guys all know it. That's why you do Club Racing UK. We know it's fun. But, my wife can take it or leave it. She enjoys racing, not necessarily to the same level as me, but not that far behind. But she'd kind of go, I might go and watch some, and then she'd happily go months without it. The thing with Castle Combe, as an example, you raised the question, why is it different there to, say, Silverstone? Well, that's all Combe get there. We have about 10 race days a year.
Yeah.
People go, that's amazing. It is spoilt by being some of the best views that you'll get, because you'll see the majority of the circuit from most places, and it's some of the fastest, some of the closest, etc. But you go Silverstone, they'll kind of go, oh, well, no, I'm not going to go to that because I can wait and go and watch the touring cars or the, whatever. Donington Park, Brands Hatch, they're kind of, dare I say, spoilt by choice.
Okay, so maybe to solve that, because I remember the first year we did the KAs, I don't know if you two remember it, Nick and Steph, but I do remember hearing something along the lines of they did advertise the crap out of the, and I know it's Ford KAs, I know it's a bit boring, and they advertised this race, and I think it was something like 15 quid to get in, and 4 people turned up. 4 people paid. Yeah, Cadwell. 4 people paid to get in. Now, what if they turned around and went, okay, how about the first 500 spectators get in for free? After that, it's a £5 or something along those lines.
I understand your sentiment, but I've always learned in business is that it was someone that turned to me and said, my dad that turned to me and said, you could offer me a Sunday newspaper for 1p. I still wouldn't buy it.
Yeah. I mean, there's another question to that as well. It's kind of, it's easy to make the argument of, okay, well, for club events, let's just make it free. But the question you then have to pose is, all the stuff, all the operational stuff, for example, the people who run, who maintain and look after, like, the facilities, like, the laboratories and do the food and stuff like that, and the maintenance stuff. The main question is, if the spectators are getting in for free, how is all the rest of it being paid for? And you could also even make an argument, I thought, of something else, where kind of another idea could be, okay, well, you could do it where, I don't know, let's say if MSV, for example, for Brands Hatch, if they raise the ticket price of a British touring car ticket by, let's say, 10 quid or so it covered the cost, and it says anyone who buys one can then go and watch a club event for free. But then I guarantee if they did that, the one thing which people who go to buy tickets won't come up on the fact they can go to a free club race. The one thing the question will ask is, why is the ticket £10 more? That's the first thing they will focus on, because people want their value for money. So the first thing they'll notice is the ticket price has gone up, not the reason why it has.
Okay, that's fair enough. It's a very good point there. The thing with, because the reason I sort of said that the first 500 and goes in for free, and then so the theory would be, once you've got people in the circuit, if you've got a couple of food stands open, and you get the people to the circuit, and then they can still put their money into paying for food and maybe having a look around a couple of the shops that are on site, or getting around the paddock. Maybe you could put in a couple of stands or whatever that's subsidized, maybe by the circuit, maybe by, it doesn't have to be just one thing that pays for it. It could be the circuit, the organising club that just puts a little bit in each, just to get a couple of bits to draw people in.
The thing to remember is how the business model works at the end of the day, though. Is like the club, say BRSCC, just as an example, Bark, whatever, they don't make anything from the spectators coming in. They will pay MSV or Castle Combe or like BRCC suddenly paying Bark if they go to Thruxton or whatever, say, right, we want to buy the use of your grid. Right, okay, there's the fee. Or they'll sell this off because we've got 8 races that we're taking there. We can get another 2 grids in there. We'll sell them out to a couple of guests at this many thousands of pounds. Right, great, that's got that. But we have got 8 grids there. We now need to get this many cars that are paying this much to enter it. That's going to get our money back at least, hopefully try and make a little bit more. So everybody sits there, the circuit kind of goes, sold. This is why, take for example, MSV have MSV and MSVR.
Yeah.
You got Motorsport Vision and Motorsport Vision Racing. So the racing is the racing club, the MSV is the body that owns the circuits. And then in theory, there's still accounting things that go along that says, well, MSV pay MSV. Whether that still happens now remains to be seen. Castle Combe Circuit, Castle Combe Racing Club, they're 2 different entities. And Castle Combe Racing Club rents the circuit when we run. And I'm on the board of the racing club, not the circuit. Right. And so it'll be like, right, we'll rent that. We'll now fill the grid with, fine, we've got our home championships, we know what we're going to get, and then we try and get other ones to come in to top that up as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's deliberate to try and sort of like separate the 2 out and keep the, because if you consider the interest, we've been touching on already. The circuit's interests are going to be totally different to the racing club interests. So the fact that they're different entities, yes, there's a crossover. The owners sit on both boards, for example. And the racing club will never go pop because the circuit won't allow it, that kind of thing. But you've got the priorities in the different boardrooms,
And just on that quickly as well, it's also a point where whenever a circuit is deciding, let's say its calendar for the year, arguably they're always going to go for the events that will ultimately make the most money, because ultimately the way the circuits make the money is from selling the track time for the big events. So Silverstone, for example, when they're, and I've said this before for competitors when they're talking about calendars, trying to put a calendar together for a club one, it's a slightly jokey way. It's kind of like I'd like it to a huge game of motorsport Jenga, because literally you're trying to create something, and then all it takes is one circuit to go, can we just have that date back, or can we just pull that, switch it? And only does it then kind of take that race meeting out. It might pull 2 or 3 race meetings or championship calendars with it, because you've structured it around the different the track times. But the thing, for example, with Silverstone, what they will do, for example, they will think of their most profitable events first. So let's talking about them. So they'll start with, obvious one, British Grand Prix. British Grand Prix is with the top one because it's Formula One, it's the biggest one we pay for in terms of getting revenue back for stuff. Then in terms of like ticket sales and things. Then they'll think, right, well, let's think about British touring cars next, British Superbikes, MotoGP, whenever it's come back in the past, examples WEC or GTs. And then also think of other ones like Silverstone Classic. They also promote, I know, have involved with the Walter Hayes Trophy as well. All those events, they'll put them in place first. And then literally to all the clubs, to us, even to MSVR, to 750, Bark, everyone else, they'll pretty much say, right, here's the list of dates that you've got, literally between yourselves, fight amongst yourselves the rest of the dates. And the first one past the post wins. I've been, and that's that by the way is the man who decides has one of the hardest jobs in club racing, which is Paul McCurlin, who's the
good man,
chief operating officer. So he's effectively my immediate boss. So he's the guy who decides what goes out in sort of club stuff.
I know Paul from when he was at BMW.
Any issues you direct it directly at him. So
he's one of the good guys. I knew Paul when he was at BMW. He's a top guy. He's joined me in the commentary box a few times. He's a top guy.
Yeah, he's good. And to be fair, he does a fantastic job. So he's all well and good.
Picking up on that point is that you talk about, like, say, Castle Combe, is that, like, you boys, you're going to be racing at Castle Combe this year, I hope, because in June, it is an MSVR, and so that one. It's interesting how that then works, is that the circuit have sold the track to MSV for those days, and although our local championships are going to be in there, the local championships have actually got to buy those grids from MSV.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. And in fact, you get the interesting thing that the accounts all work out is that if the circuit agree, because there's been times when it's like, right, that 2-day event's going to MSV, that 2-day event's going to BRSCC, for example, and then the Castle Combe Racing Club is sat there going, oh, we'll these single days and you, but you know, it is what it is, because you then work out and goes, well, therefore we just know that we've got these days or that we got to make it work because we're buying those grids, but then selling the slots to the drivers, etc., etc. And it's just it's one of those real intriguing things when I joined the board and having all sorts of conversations with the likes of MSV, etc. is just sort of seeing how it all works, and it's not quite what people think it is behind the scenes, but it's all deliberately for a reason. It's all sensibly done because you've got, you know, stakeholders with different priorities.
Okay,
and I think just one thing I wanted to say. Obviously, we harp on about why stuff doesn't get promoted, but like you say, if the circuit is sold the spot to, you know, BARC or whoever, they're going to say, look, we need 300 grand. You can have the track. Bang. The circuit ain't bothered about promoting that event then, are they? They are just going to be like, well, we've got our money because you're here, job done. Then the club are just going to put on a great race weekend, so they're not bothered about promoting it to anyone because they're going to make their money that way. So maybe that's where it's falling down.
Well, I mean, it's interesting though, isn't it?
There's
I mean,
no need to promote it, is there, as such?
Other than the fact that they would still sit there and they'd make, because it's the circuit that make the ticket, the money from the tickets. But if they sit there and kind of go, look, do you know what? How much are we going to get? Are we going to go and spend? Because marketing at the end of the day is that I want to spend, just to use an arbitrary figure, if I'm going to spend £1,000 on marketing, I'm going to expect to get £10,000 back. Or at the very least, £2,000 back. You know, you're looking to sort of like double your money at the very least. And if they sit there and kind of go, right, are we really going to do that? You know, are we going to go and spend £1,000 to get you're never going to spend £1,000 to get £1,000 back. You're just not going to do it.
It won't put the effort in.
Exactly. Plus, you've also got, and again with my businessman and marketing head on, is that you've got to be careful. Even if you turn around and go, no, it's fine. If we go and spend £1,000 on marketing, I know we'll go and get £10,000 back. I don't know what. Doesn't matter what the figures are, but because there's race meets largely every weekend at some of the bigger circuits, if you are making noise all the time, people will become deaf to you.
Yeah.
So you have to choose. Exactly. You have to choose when to make the noise to have that credibility of your message, to have the audience to actually listen to you. So it's a really impossible thing for them to do. Social media is beautiful, though, is the fact that you put it out for free. You just say that this is happening. This is what it is. The racing clubs are really good at it. The each individual championship are getting better at doing it as well. And I'm sure Scott would agree with that, is that the championships themselves promote like hell to kind of go,
I know why that is now. I know why that is. That's because of the My Supercar League table. That's why that's happening. Just putting that one out there.
Well, right, we'll go back because I have fallen behind on the comments. There's a number that have landed in. Dan Willars, how about for club racing? You pay what you feel is right. Again, that's a risk for the circuits, I suppose. With your guys' insight, is a circuit willing to take that chance?
Yeah, they've got to cover their costs, haven't they?
Yeah.
And then some.
Matt Clary says it's not going to be as good to go until we can visit the pits, see the cars. Nothing beats having a good look at the cars, the close up. Like you guys said, the atmosphere as well, the smell of petrol.
And don't forget the clubs want that to happen because that's how they get the next generation of racing drivers as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's our biggest push. That's our biggest reason for wanting to go to the likes of BTTC and stuff like that and showing people about club racing because it is so accessible. And as you know, Chris, you've got a young daughter who's 9 years old. I've got young kids as well. If I can get them into it, they're going to be our next generation of racers, aren't they?
Absolutely. So, well, as I'm the example, 5 years old at Castle Combe, and look at the fact that I still talk about the fact that I feel so lucky to do what I do. You know, it absolutely, and it's always about being accessible in the paddocks, isn't it? And the fact that people can come up and talk to you and go like, oh, how did you get into racing, and what is it you do, and how much does it cost, and how much fun do you have? Whatever, it doesn't matter what the questions are. And this is why part of the training I do with drivers is that just speak to everybody. If anybody that comes up to you, speak to absolutely every single person, never prejudge. And because you never know, that could help you for sponsorship in the future. It could help your championship grow and your costs come down. You never know what the hell it is. Just speak to everybody. But we can't have
as well is that it's interesting because we talk about access, and you're absolutely right. Is that I think club racing is and grassroots racing is the most accessible form of racing you can get. And people have to remember, even though you've got stuff like British touring cars and British GT and British superbikes, you have to remember it's a little bit like sort of Formula One, where kind of, yes, you've got the paddocks, it's more open, you can access more areas of the circuit kind of for less than you would for Formula One. I mean, for Formula One, unless you buy a general admission ticket, you have to pay to choose where you want to sit. Where obviously, and you kind of to an extent with bigger events, but you have to remember that even British touring cars and British GT, all those events, they still have areas that are kind of ring fenced and kind of just kept just for the elite competitors and teams and stuff. Whereas club racing, you can obviously not right now with the restrictions, but when they get lifted and when people can again, typically you can go into any of the grandstands that are open and sit, and not just sit on the other side. You can go and walk in the paddock. You can talk to competitors, to teams. You can talk to championship coordinators. You can talk to marshals. You can talk to officials and get involved. You can walk around behind the back of the pits. You can do all of that. It's lots of stuff which you can't even do in British touring cars, for example, or British GT or any other bigger championships without having a media pass or special pass or things like that. When you have championships like, for example, Fun Cup, for example, on our roster, Fun Cup's brilliant because, and Chris will probably know, he's seen a few events, and we did it with TCR as well. With TCR UK, when they were with us the past couple of years, they would simply do a grid walk for people, for anyone to come onto. And so it's great for a championship of Fun Cup for people to bring the cars onto the grid and to actually have people come up and see them up close and meet the drivers and get inspired. And Nick's absolutely right when he says it's all of those things, all that access, that then breeds the next generation of kind of young fans who either appreciate club racing or use it as an inspiration to then get involved in whatever level, whether it's driving or media or becoming a mechanic or an engineer or getting involved with a local club. That it's small things, but it just takes a small spark of anything that can create something massive in the future.
Well, especially as this whole pandemic has shown, other than the morons that made me angry yesterday, is that we are a family, and you guys with your awesome show, ours with us with ours as well, Coon TV, is that it's all about the family, isn't it? The family, the motorsport family.
Yeah.
And people really buy into that, and it can, once people see it from the inside, they kind of go, "Oh, this is great! I want to be part of that," and you can't leave. It's like
I maintain that you cannot, once you've had a taste of club racing, it's not just, it's the community behind it, isn't it? It's the Saturday nights all sat around a barbecue talking about the race that you've just done with your mates. You just can't beat it. You just cannot beat it. It's
I'll say one thing quickly, is that before I joined BRSCC, which is back in 2015, but I will put my hands up and admit that up until that point, I'd never really sort of probably discovered club racing. I had maybe the last couple of years, but not really got involved in it. And so, like any typical racing fan, I never focused on stuff like, particularly when you were in autosport when you were younger. And when you're young as a kid, let's admit it, when we were all younger, we all went to the Formula One, we went to Le Mans touring cars because they're all the big shiny racing cars, all the racing heroes and stuff. And wrongly, we kind of overlooked, not nowadays we don't because we're in it, but we kind of overlooked the national section because we thought, well, it's not Jason Plater, for example, it's not Nigel Mansell, it's not those kind of guys. But Nick's absolutely right. Once you get in it, it's kind of like you can't get out of it. And so now for me, it's the other way around. Whenever I get sport news or autosport, literally the first thing I go to now is, for example, I've got a copy here, for example. Like the first thing I'll go to in autosport is not the page that says what Mercedes must do with W12. I'm going straight to the back. I'm going straight to Club Autosport because it's the racing I give the most of a damn about, and because I'm in it.
Yeah.
So it's incredible how one thing can change your perception.
But that was the motorsports version of the European Super League, when Autosport got rid of club motorsport in it and got rid of the printed version.
Yes.
And everyone went, "You're out. You're out. Whoa. You're out."
And so now they've turned it around. Now we have that.
Right.
That was bang out of order.
Yeah, Scott. I was going to mention that tonight. Okay, so you hold that up, that national supplement, okay? And what's on the front? A bloody McLaren GT3 car. That's not a club racing car.
That is not a club racing car.
Club racing car for you. Watch the find. Here we go. It's BRC related. I'll find you a picture of our catering, shall we? There you go. That's better.
That's better.
That said, Robert, I will still say, do you know what? When you consider on the bill that you were, the GT Cup, is, and I know that it's a different level, but this is what I love about club racing, is the fact that it incorporates everything, because you've still got the successful business people that their club car is a bit nicer than what us real people can get. But it's it's not British GT, it's not Blancpain, and GT Cup don't try to be those. You know, they know they're their own thing, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. And this is why, if you look at, and obviously I'm very lucky that I get to travel around and cover all the GT Cup events as well, and host their awards and things like that. Their focus is on the AM driver. All of their rules. Everything about it is about the AM driver. So, in fact, and I know why you said it, and I get it, but just to sort of prove the point, is that club racing is a very, very broad subject, and the fact that it is able to incorporate all areas is what makes it so damn good. You know, we talk about things like the Fun Cup, we talk about things like the Ford KA, you know, the C1s, the two CVs, for Christ's sake, they're brilliant. Yeah, you know, there is just every single level. No, do you know what? I remember when I was commentating, and the first time I went, oh my God, how am I going to pull this one off? It was the most fun I have had commentating. They are absolutely mental. They are just crazy in so many ways, and you take it for what it is. And that's what I love, is that you've got the complete spectrum. That's why people should be flocking, just to go back, bring it full circle and back up your original comments. People should be flocking to watch club racing. You've got absolutely everything, and every mark, every manufacturer, every size, every craziness. You know, when you've got, say, the supercarts, they're just something else that I commentated on for a long time. They are mental. And the trucks, and you'd even get on the same bill, the trucks and the supercarts, and it's just like, how cool is that?
Yeah, but that's just the thing, isn't it? You have such a diverse, you know, set of racing every weekend. As you mentioned, you know, this is the first time this weekend I've been, the weekend at Donington a couple of weeks back, that we've been around the likes of the GT Cup, and it was just night and day different. As you said, we're all still doing the same thing. We're all in the paddock, but obviously they had the likes of tyre warmers, and as me and Steph found out when we were doing one of our live videos, and they had lots of promotional billboards across the back of their garage, so you couldn't see anything. But they've just got slightly more expensive toys than what we're playing with, but it was still very. We're all there for the same thing, really, weren't we?
So another awesome experience for us club racers, isn't it? You know, we go club racing with a Mini and a Focus and that, and then suddenly next on the grid's a bunch of Lambos and Ferraris, and you can go up close to them. And,
suddenly there's a brand new Ferrari, whatever that model Ferrari is.
Oh, but let's just remember that there was the Ferrari 488 that they brought out because their Brabham blew an engine. So they went Ferrari 488 instead.
Just have that left on the back of the truck, just in case.
Yeah, exactly. And the GT3 AMG Mercedes, that car had an issue in the free practice, so they switched it to it looked identical, but it's not. We've had to let you know, Mr. Commentator, that it's the spare car. Righto.
Okay. Yeah.
Because every club racer has a spare GT3 Mercedes lying around.
Exactly.
But you've got to take it the other way, that I know that there are guys out there that are doing it on the relative shoestring, you know, and it's just that their playground's just a little bit different to them. Sorry, Robert.
Yeah. I
thought you were shutting us up then, mate.
No, that's the shoestring. Simple.
But it is. I mean, it's the way it is. Did you see the Nissan Nismo GTR out there? You know, Godzilla, and I know Graham Tilley personally. He's a good friend of mine, and you know, they rock up with a van and a trailer. And yet you know what else was there, guys. You saw it.
Oh yes.
But they're not made to feel lepers by any stretch. They are absolutely right to be there. It's brilliant.
It was when the comment for me was when I was waiting to get in the car. Nick was out, and we were just sort of browsing up and down. I had my work colleague on the spanners with me. First time he'd been to an event like this, and he's like, "Some of the equipment they've got there looks like something you buy in Ann Summers." And I sort of looked and was like, I've never really thought about it like that, but he's got a point. Some of it just looks like carbon fiber covers for their bloody air bottles and stuff like that. I'm like, as soon as I win the lottery, I'm buying one just because I can. That sort of thing. Just, it can sit in the corner of the garage, but I want a carbon fiber one just because it looks cool.
You just sit and parade it every time people come around. Oh, my carbon fiber bottle holder.
I'll still be multiple Le Mans winner or something as your co-driver. That's the way to do it. As well.
Yeah.
No offense. No offense.
Yeah.
I know who I'd choose.
I'll tell you what. Well, I think, to be honest, chaps, we've been on it for an hour and 10 minutes. We haven't got to the race report yet, so I think we need to.
I've kind of segued you towards that now, haven't I?
You kind of have. Well, tell you what, let's segue to Donington. Okay, so.
Well, hold on. Have we got any further comments that people want to chat about before we go off and end the conversation, the topical conversation?
The comments are kind of slow for me tonight. No, I've got to refresh my page tonight. So Stu, wait. Okay, so he's put a couple of comments in. So the highlight of my childhood was watching Castle Combe saloons. 3 million saloons arriving at Quarry was mega. And again, you know, the BRSCC Mazda MX-5s, they put on about 10.5 different heats for about 3.5 million MX-5s. I suppose it's the same for you.
10.5? How dare you? It's 25.
Yeah.
Nah, they're brilliant. We love them. They're one of our all our temperatures are great, but yeah, our X5s, they get a lot of support, and they're looking great again this year. So
well, I mean,
yeah, looking forward to it.
I've got memories of 10 years ago. I think when Jonathan Blake was running your series, I was just come out of college and I was helping the BRSCC Porsche Championship in its infancy. When you had the likes of Clark, Stiggy Styron, and you watch that. So we take up.
Did you see him do well at Donington, by the way?
He did very well in the Porsches. Yeah, very well.
Sorry, mate, carry on.
No, he can pedal. I watched him win 3 championships, and he's the nicest bloke ever.
Yeah,
he is.
But yeah. I can even remember 10 years ago as a student going, bloody hell, there's loads of MX-5s. You couldn't swing a cat without hitting one, and it's still the same.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting stat on that one, and I promise this is not a gloat at all, but I think it was 2019. It staggered even me in terms of number of drivers registered for the MX-5 Championship, and I think we actually topped the. I think we topped the average. I think in total, in terms of average number of cars entered for the season, I think the average was 57. But I think in terms of actual number of drivers registered, it stunned even me. Was 116, and 112 of them actually got out to race.
What's that?
116 registered drivers for one championship.
And it's like the Caterhams. The Caterhams pull in big numbers, don't they? And not just the traditional. You got the Caterham grads that I'm very much involved with these days. They pull in some massive numbers as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think there was one year. I think at least because the interesting thing is that kind of technically me and Chris are in warring factions. I jest, not really, but because Chris is in with the Caterham graduates, and obviously we look after the main Caterham Motorsport roster, and I'm very much in with them. So, but yeah, Caterham is another one where literally if there's a Caterham weekend anywhere, regardless of who it is, you're going to get a ton of them come out and race in whatever classes they're in. So, and yeah, any Caterham championship will regularly do well and sell out and get a big grid, whoever it is and wherever it is.
That is absolutely fantastic. Right, some last comments before we go on to the racing roundup. Emma Cross, great chat, guys. MG Metro Cup first race weekend. Cannot wait. That'll be fantastic to see this weekend. I know Mr. Waterhouse and the guys will be covering that for my supercar.
You're going to love the MG Car Club. I've been involved with them for years, and that was another one I was thinking earlier about saying about MG Car Club, good numbers, and Classic Sports Car Club getting crazy numbers. They're another one I wanted to mention as well.
Yeah, they'll be covered in the race. We did have a video for them, but we had a few snags with that. But all of their grids, you couldn't look at a grid on TSL timing. I don't think there was one under 35.
It's the hardest.
Astonishing.
The Classic Sports Car Club meets are the hardest work as a commentator because you just can't prep enough because there's just too many of them. It's nuts.
Going on.
It's fantastic. Right, the last of the comments are Chris Pratt. I fear that people going to the circuits will be more price sensitive than ever with job losses, etc. as a result of COVID. Circuits will need to help themselves a bit to get feet through the door. I think, to be honest, that might be the factor with the big events as well. Just
I agree with the
everyone
bigger
generally-
events, but club racing at £10 to £15 a ticket, compare that to, say, football, they've always already been the affordable day out anyway, really.
Yeah, and on that price tag, I mean, Stu Waite, some of the first races I went to see as a kid at Castle Combe, if you didn't get there by 8:30, you wouldn't get near the fence at Quarry. It was good value for money, 12 to 15 quid to get in and £2.50 to get into the paddock.
Yep. And you had to take a German towel to put over your chair to keep it as well.
Dan Willars has asked, Chris Dawes, are we not having your voice at MGCC this year?
I don't think I got asked early enough, unfortunately. I'm gutted about it. I would love to be back there, but I haven't been approached this early enough this year.
Oh, he's a man in demand, is Chris Dawes. Mario Neofitu. I remember getting £2 for lunch for school every day. On a Thursday, I wouldn't have lunch, so I could buy the Autosport for £1.80 from the newsagent walking home from school. Christ.
Yeah, we must be old. £1.80.
I was going to say, let's see what the price is now. So I bought this today, funnily enough, to catch up, and it's £3.99.
Not what did they put it at for a little while? 12 quid or something crazy, wasn't it?
No, it's £10.99.
Was it?
£10.99.
Yeah.
The best thing was it was mostly club races as well, but the great bit was it was the pros that came out as well and was like, you lot need to sort it out. Simple as. Right, let's get to the racing roundup. We've got a lot of great content for you today. And of course, we went to Donington Park for the MSVR meeting. There was someone very, very familiar up in the commentary booth. Now, I haven't covered GT Cup in this because I'll be honest, I was a little bit, it's GT Cup. It's basically British GT. But I will tell you, there was some great racing to be had there. Lots of factory drivers, the likes of Phil Keane, Abby Eaton, you name it. Absolutely fantastic racing. And I think the live streams are still up on their website, are they?
Yeah, they will be, mate. Yeah, absolutely. And on the GT Cup YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, no problem. Now, there was one race in particular where all 4 seasons came in one race. We needed a snowplow. We needed to get the sunblock out.
We had one.
And I think Noah's Ark turned
Mr.
up
Plough.
as well. Yeah,
Mr. Plough was there. We were fine.
I was in the other race. Colin Tester and Sam Gay won in the Integra in the Track Day Trophy after Darkside Developments had a little whoopsie, leading the race. I think by 10. Leading the race by about 10-second lead. Unfortunately, he got a wheel on the grass and put it in the gravel. Didn't go well.
On the curb.
It was on the curb after it had sleeted. Yeah, that was. If you do get a chance, go on YouTube. I was watching Alex Bohm, right? Watching his drive during the race. And at one point, you can't see because it's snow. Then it's bright sunshine. You can barely see because you're being blinded. How the hell was it possible to commentate on that, Chris? Because you're probably thinking, what the hell is going on?
Well, if anybody listened into it, that basically I was just the most bemused commentator you've ever heard. And it was just like, you had to go with it. You had to just go, this is just insane. I can't believe it. And I think I was laughing whilst commentating. It was just, I remember looking over across the circuit and it came in from the sort of the other side, the old hairpin side. And it looked like a sort of mist coming in to start with. And I just sort of thought, oh, well, it was forecasting rain for around this time. So that makes sense. Maybe it's just that fine rain. As Peter Kay says, the fine rain soaks you through. And then suddenly it got up to the top half and it's like, it's snow. And it's not just a little bit of snow. It's a full-on whiteout.
Yeah, it was a blizzard.
Do with that what you will. And I think everybody, if anybody, and I know people were messaging me, were listening on TSA and they want Dawes is on the gin in the commentary box. I was making it up.
He's lost the plot.
And thank God there was footage and photos that proved that I wasn't losing it.
even in the paddock around that time, at one point I was wearing a shirt because I was bloody hot. Then you put the hoodie on, and then it was like someone had just put an Arctic blizzard through, and I'm freezing my nuts off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were all stood down at Redgate when it came in, weren't we? We were like, oh, I can't feel my feet. I'm freezing.
We're trying to do live streams and their hands freezing, trying to hold the phone.
Yeah, you two, bless you. You look like a frozen Eskimos.
Yeah.
Right,
Felt like
okay.
it.
With that, we move
did
on to
not
the
dress for the occasion.
We didn't. with that, we move on to the Track Day Championship, and there were 2 cars entered that may look familiar. Well, certainly to us, they'll look familiar. Let's get the first picture up.
Oh,
Hey!
there it is.
Oh,
Look at that
handsome
handsome
fellow
fellow
sideways across the
pedaling
grass.
No, that was probably the next lap.
No, that was...
That was that corner.
Yeah. So that's my car. I'll be honest, I was bloody proud of our car that weekend, but we'll show the next picture first and then we'll explain. So Steph, let's have a look at the Mini. Yes, look at him go.
Yeah. On it.
Okay then, Steph,
Absolutely on it.
tell us about your weekend.
Pretty hectic. It was
Short and sweet.
The thing is, again, it's the first time we've been, we've gone from the KAs to the Mini. It's a big step up and everything. Learning the car, learning the track. Obviously, we're still with MSVR from the KA, but learning the different layouts. It's all such a big thing and a big learning curve on the first race. So it's pretty hectic, making sure you're in the right place and all that lot, and got all the right stickers on and stuff. But all that sort of went out for qualifying. It's going to be the same for you guys, isn't it? But the first part of qualifying, obviously because we've got 2 drivers, and we did it in halves. The first half, I don't know, I think you had a warm-up lap, and then you had sort of one flying-ish lap.
No.
Not really. And then the safety car came out.
Yes.
And then once the safety car went in, Matt got called in for me, and then Nick got called in for Rob, so you didn't actually get the 2 flying laps. So then I went out, and then most of my stint, I think I only got 3 or 4 flying laps, and the rest of it was under yellows because someone had was off in the gravel. So.
It was just busy, wasn't it? It was so much.
Yeah, it was just busy. And there's a bit of traffic. Obviously, the guys on the radio were getting me into a bit of space, but again, we're still learning the car. It was the first time I pushed it that hard. In qualifying, and I think we qualified at 7th in class or 24th overall, something like that. So we're quite happy with that, to be fair. Then I went out first for the race, for the first ever standing start. What an experience that is! That's pretty epic. I was a bit nervous about just making sure I wasn't an idiot that didn't stall it on the line and things like that. Not too worried about actually the start, not looking like a twat. But we had a good start, and then it's a good race with some Clios. Had a bit of a race with the Honeybone Clio. Had a little bit of contact with them.
The champions from last year.
Were they? Oh, they were, weren't they? Yep. We had a little bit of contact with them. I'm not sure if that was or wasn't the reason why our drive shaft went later on, but I was having some great fun with some cars, and it was pretty good fun racing. And then I come out with, I think it was the old hairpin, and had a huge vibration, and it was pulling to the left, so I dived straight in the pits. They had a quick look, pulled some stuff, didn't look too bad, changed his oil, stuck Matt in it, Matt went down the craners, and the drive shaft just exploded, so that was the end of that.
He did half a lap.
He did half a lap. Well, he went out and qualified behind a safety car, and then went out in the race and did half a lap. So he didn't have a very good weekend.
Oh, poor man, bless him.
But that's racing.
The frightening thing was seeing the Mini up on the banking there, and because by then I'd got in the car to do my stint and had my own dramas. But it was seeing the Mini move every lap because it parked up and then started moving.
It parked up. Obviously, we've got a hydraulic line lock handbrake. So we stuck that on, and as the brakes have cooled down whilst it's sat in there, it's come off the line lock slightly, and then it's just been slowly creeping it down the grass. and they wouldn't, obviously, you couldn't go out there to do anything about it. The marshals were like, "Can you put the handbrake on?" He's like, "Well, yeah, but the brakes are cooled down, no." So couldn't leave it in gear because the drive shaft had destroyed itself, so that wouldn't have done anything. So it just crawled its way back down the hill.
Just crawled away.
They must have surprised the marshals, you station one spot that's on the back straight. They turn around for 5 seconds, and the cars move 10 feet when they come back.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I don't know.
Apparently they're all over the radios. Like, what should we do? Like, have we got to stick a yellow out and go and put the brake back on, or what?
There was yellows out, and because I kept going past, and literally every lap I'm going past, I'm like, I swear that's where it moved. And he sort of raced past, and then the next lap it was like,
It's the slowest lap you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's just like, and I almost thought that as well. I thought, has Matt left the handbrake off? And then it didn't swing until I got back into the pits.
I'm just going to say this now, Rob. If you're concentrating on the Mini rolling down the hill, you clearly weren't concentrating on the track well enough.
Well, to be fair, let's be honest. At that point, I was
just
down.
quickly, all I did was look to one side, saw the Mini was off, and I laughed. I was like, ha ha, and then carried on. And I then didn't pay any attention to their car for the rest of the day.
Well, I'll tell you what, Nick. Let's tell them about our race.
Cheers, mate.
So we're kind of we're the official Club Racing UK podcast car. So Nick went out in the car to qualify. We had a little teething trouble before we went out to qualify. The earth lead had managed to work itself loose, which I've now refixed to another point.
Can I just point out, by the way, you gave me so much shit when my Vectra did that.
Yes,
and then your car did exactly the same.
Well, no, yours didn't vibrate loose. Yours didn't exist.
Yeah, it did. It was just bad. It was just badly attached.
Yours worked loose, Rob, because he said, "Well, if you're going to get stroppy with me, I'm going to make it happen to yours as well." I'm not one to stir her out.
So yeah, Nick went out to qualify the Focus. And
I'd just like to point out at that point, I went up to see Nick. I said, "Everything all right?" He went, "No, I won't start." I said, "Do you know why yet?" He said, "No, not yet." I said, "I'm going to qualify. See you later."
It's like typical Top Gear fashion. If you got a problem, yeah.
Yeah,
basically, yeah. So we got the car out, and Nick, to be fair to Nick, he went out in qualifying and absolutely tested the levels of grip behind the safety car. Keeping the
took long enough to get into the pit lane from memory as well when he was late joining, and there was a cone in his way.
Yeah, there was. And I stood there like, hello. And the marshal eventually cottoned on, came running over him, just booting cones out my way. I was like, yeah, cheers, mate.
So yeah, that happened. I managed to get in the car, and I think I got 2 reasonably good laps in, but just sat in traffic, couldn't get any time in. So we qualified something like 27th, so a few paces behind the Mini. But for the first time since Full Power Live, and we can knock all the splitter jokes and everything, but the whole weekend leading up to Donington, I'd been up and down the country getting the car set up, doing everything on the budget as tight as possible. And for the first time, I was like, I'm actually going to really bloody enjoy this. And I love that car on Sunday, sorry. So
I was very gutted though, Rob.
Why?
Because it never turned up with a splitter, so we couldn't have the banter for the weekend. I'm watching it fall off again.
Unfortunately, mate, it's not going to have the splitter for the rest of the season.
Oh my god!
So that's it now. No more splitter. But we went into the race. Nick absolutely drove the bloody wheels off it. I was absolutely cheering up and down. My sister and my girlfriend doing my pit wall were going nuts because Nick made up about 10 places. He was 0.3 seconds behind the Mini in terms of fastest laps. So you guys were about the same pace.
I was coming for you.
You had a little bit of a... You had a little bit.
I was stuck behind the Clio.
Little moment.
And then you stuck it on the grass.
Well, did you stick it on the grass? Because looking from the replay, you just completely lost it and went sideways.
I lost the back end of your Focus. I can't remember the name of the corner before the start finish straight. But I'd lost the back end a couple of times. But your bloody gear stick is shit, and I went too far to the left and was like in the reverse gate. So I'm there pulling it down, trying to go for second. I was like, no, still not there. No. Right. And by which point I was pirouetting.
The onboard isn't good enough to show because I've set the camera up wrong, and all you can see outside is just a bright light. It's like you're racing in Jesus land. So all you can see is the inside of the car. But Nick's like hammering the gear stick. He's like that. It's like he's trying to maneuver a bloody super tanker. Whereas you watch my onboards, and I guess I'm used to it. I don't know.
Nick, changing gear is like making love to a beautiful woman.
Wow. It's funny you should say that, Chris. That would explain a lot that's going on in my life right now.
So, anyway.
There's a reason I've moved into a house full of strangers.
You need to tease her and squeeze her.
This is my race car we're on about here. My God. At least we've kept it till after 9 o'clock for once. So anyway, Nick handed the car over to me, and just as I'm on the back straight, I'm tightening up the belts. I'm like, right, let's get settled into my stint. And I'm like, why is the right-hand pedal not doing bugger all? And the obviously, I look at the tacho. I thought initially it had thrown a leg out the bed. So I thought, oh, there goes an engine or something like that. But it was just sat there on idle, looked down, and the cable's hanging out the bloody pedal box.
Yeah.
So my throttle cable had gone. Luckily, I was on the back straight, dumped the clutch, coasted into the pit lane. I had Phil Neal's head in my crotch while he was fixing the issue. So that was nice. I made sure I stroked his head tenderly. We got the car back out. The good thing is we finished 6 laps down. Bit of a sticky throttle, hence my picture where I'm in the gravel/grass at the last chicane, because I would heel and toe to change down, get on the clutch, and it would just jolt the car forward and kind of overshoot the corner.
There's racing driver excuse number 382.
That's terrible. You cut the corner.
Let me just get a book. No. Genuinely, the throttle was a bit shit after that.
I'm using that line this weekend.
It was sticking at points, but the important thing is, Nick, we finished. Anyway,
Yes, we did. We finished. That means, Steph, you get points for finishing a race.
Yeah, you're above us in the championship. Thanks for reminding
We are above you in the championship.
Okay, so moving on. It was a wonderful win for the Darkside Development boys in that race. They certainly made up for the whoopsie in the track day trophy race. And some fantastic cars. The whole paddock has been very welcoming as well. And we're looking forward to Silverstone on the 15th of May, when myself and Nick will be in my car. And Matt Hibbert and Steph will be back out in the Mini. So the two of us will be trying to do something good there. So
Definitely.
the Porsche Club Championship, Mark McAleer got 2 fantastic wins in the 911. Richard Styring starred in the Boxster in Class 2. The Monoposto 1000, 2000 and 1600s, Dan Gore got 2 wins in an F1000 car. And again, it shows the versatility of an F1000 car or Formula Jedi. Shows the versatility. You don't just win it in F1000. You can go to Monoposto and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of a partner focus here. We've got a picture for our friends at All Square. Hopefully. There we go. So,
there we go. See, look,
Chris,
it wasn't an April Fool's. There's the big blue truck of Chris's.
So he was out with
what that is, and it's an entire joke which Chris remember. Chris, just ask a question. What shade of blue would you call that, Chris?
Oh, you got to remind me, what shade was it again?
Well, it's either these three are sitting thinking, what on earth is this joke about? But it's kind of, I think it was duck blue. It was powder blue, wasn't it? To quickly explain that the first time we ever commentated together, me and Chris, was MG Car Club event in 2014.
Yeah.
And I think it was I was trying to describe the color of it, some kind of an MG or something, and I described it as something like duck egg blue. And then Chris made like to keep saying, "Oh, is it powder blue? Is it this shade of blue? Is it that shade of blue?" And just kept it out over the whole weekend. So, and that sort of joke has stuck ever since, which is kind of just. And I remind him of that every now and again. I saw the blue and I thought, that's brilliant.
We laugh at the cells.
So we showed you that picture there, and Chris Pratt has just taken that car was in a million bits 2 weeks before the event. They only just got it finished before the event. Over the moon with how it went. So All Square, Rap and Ride, Chris Pratt and Vicky Pratt, and they got P1 and P2 in class CSP2. So it's fantastic racing from the sports prototype and the 1000s.
Yeah.
That's everything I've got. So, can you remember who won the GT Cup? Just to be fair, Chris.
Well, you can't say that. It was 4 races over the weekend, wasn't there? But and the answer is no. I can't remember. And at the end of the day, the great thing about GT Cup and why it's such a busy thing to commentate on is that you've got all the groups. You've got to call them groups, not classes. Whether that's GTO, GT3, GTC, GTB, GTH, GTA. And there's fights all the way up and down through the field, and they are scoring points in their own groups that then obviously still determines the overall as well. And it's just epic. And of course, what did we have? 38 cars for crying out loud. It's just
and what
epic.
a range of cars you had. What a range of cars. Like you said, you had like the Nismo Godzilla, GT3, you know, Porsches, you had the bloody Mercs, and then you had the likes of an old Marcos.
I was going to say,
Two
that
of
is
them.
my favourite car. I love those Top
Those
Cat
are so
Racing
cool.
Marcuses.
Yeah.
Considering they were British GT cars 20 years ago, and they're still going.
And they were still fighting as well.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
It was
So
good.
from Donington Park, we went on to a very, very, very wet Alton Park for the CSCC. Once again, extremely impressive grids, superb racing. I don't think there was one grid that was lower than 35. Dave Griffin won the Future and Modern Classics race. We did have a fantastic video to show you, but sadly we've had some technical difficulties. But if you do get a chance, pop onto the CSCC webpage and just look at their overall weekend video. It's been very well produced. There's some fantastic action on there. Simpson pair won in the 206 in the Tin Tops race. Like I said, lots of action in there. I think there was a little bit of door banging going on further down the field from some of the videos. It's difficult to tell because the last time I put a video up that was a bit contentious with a bit of contact, I did get a few messages through. So I'm playing it a bit steady until we get to the Cadwell Park roundup.
What? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, you got to put the juicy stuff in.
New Millennium Turbo Tin Tops and the Open Class. So Mark Smith won the overall, Dave Griffin won the Open Class, and Charlie Newton Darby won Turbo Tin Tops. Magnificent Seven, Stephen Nuttall with the win there, and Chris Watkinson and Mark Campbell won the classic battles in the swinging 60s. They had two separate groups of fantastic racing. Right, Cadwell Park for the 750 Motor Club, run in honour of Mick Nichols, understandably due to events there on the Friday. Now, with the MR2s, it did get a bit messy off the line. Shall we play the video? Steph, if you're wondering, mate, that's how you fuck up a standing start.
That's what I didn't want to do.
For demonstration purposes, that is how not to do it.
It's Cadwell Park, isn't it, guys? It's always a bit tight when you go there.
You can't blame the circuit that hasn't changed for bloody years. It is tight, and everyone needs to understand it's tight. Trying to win it in the first 50 yards, not going to happen, boys. Come on.
That's very true. So Aaron Cook and Paul Cook got the wins there. The third group race was actually curtailed after one lap due to hitting circuit curfew, unfortunately. So they missed out a bit there. So one lap into a race. Sorry, boys, got to cut it off.
Yeah. Bang out of order.
There we go. And here's the bit I love about Cadwell Park, as we'll show in this Clio 182 picture, is the epic photos you can get like this. Look at that.
That's
cool.
one of my favourite places for photos. There's some great ones.
Yeah.
Cool.
Up the mountain.
There we go.
What a place.
Up the mountain. So Oliver Wayne won both the Clio races. Jack Dwayne did lead until the final laps before some close battles to give Oliver Wayne the victories. And I think the guy in the picture there finished third in both races as well. I believe. The 750 Motor Club also held an all-comers race where a bit of everything was thrown into there. And it's the one thing I've noticed recently, because at the Bark meeting we're due to cover as well, there was an all-comers race. Is this just started... I know there was always a few of the odd races being held, but there sort of seems to be a bit more of we'll stick anything in if you're up for it kind of racing going on.
It's the whole COVID thing, isn't it? It's people want to go racing.
It must be a combination of having clubs having spare track time, and simply as Nick said, and the point he made from people racing last year, people just want to get out and race in something. So they'll just think, well, there's an all-comers, I'll stick my catering, I'll stick my BMW in, or anything they've got. So they'll just, and it's, but the all-comers races are good for all different manner of things, like for signatures or just a race or any other matter. So
I think we flirted with it at Coombe as well. We chatted about it in a meeting about should we put something on, could we put something on, and it was like, yeah, we possibly could, but it was all so late that the government obviously made these changes. But and it was for Easter Monday and what have you. And it was down to the fact that it's like, look, people just want to race because they're like, say, what's it, Scott? You said is that it was due to be March, but it's going to be May before you're racing. Well, you've got all of those people going, I want to get the damn car out somewhere.
Exactly.
And so it was like the all-comers was an idea that we flirted with as well, but decided against it. But clearly, Bark and 750 have gone, well, let's put something to just give someone something to come. MSVR have been doing it for ages. From a commentator's perspective, it's a really weird one because you look at it and go, I have no idea what I'm going to get. Sometimes they're dire and you might get like 7 cars in it or something. But a lot of the times you'll have like absolutely loads in it and so varied that even then you still don't know what you're going to get because you could have them completely spread out or you could have some amazing fights between things you'd never consider.
Okay, well, that's one way of putting it. Yeah, it just seems... again, you make it very, very, very simple and to the point. It's just something I noticed that's cropping up a lot more, but I guess with COVID it makes sense.
Yeah.
Hot hatch. Now, this was a bit of a hot debate that turned up today, actually, and I've got to give credit to James Winstanley. He has got something on his hands there that's nothing to do with him. It's what is in the blue book. Alistair Camp won and got 2 wins in what was effectively Civic Cup practice for him, but he's looking to do a full season now, I understand. But a number of the cars were disqualified after they were pulled up after race 1 and found that they weren't running catalytic converters. Hence, they had to sit out race 2. But it was a fantastic, it was a fantastic grid. We'll get a picture of it here, hopefully.
Yeah, you will, because look who's in amongst it. Oh God, Dad!
He did have a good race.
The best looking out mirror you will ever see.
Well, we have got another picture of that will come up after the racing roundup because it looks absolutely beautiful. And Dan got a couple of great results. But
2 second classes, wasn't it? So
with the cars that got disqualified, James actually had to make the point on the Hot Hatch Drivers Group today, reading from it, that he has basically said, look, Motorsport UK have said to us, they are going to be checking this a lot more. The environment is going to be an issue. If you're not running to the Blue Book rules, I'm sorry, we've got to check it. It's as simple as. Mm-hmm. So something that may be coming up in a future podcast. You never know.
What's that? The catalytic converter special?
No, about...
Make sure you market that, Market
it. Does your car have
Join us for tonight's episode of...
Well, it should.
You have it, Catalytic.
We'll call it the honeycomb special, but no, I meant more the environmental side and how it will affect rubber.
The honeycomb special. I like it.
That is, I mean,
it could be sponsored by your local thief.
That's what it's going to be. I've had to pull out for race 2 because someone's jacked my car out and cut the cat out.
Yeah. Yeah, we could have an advert for your local thief and battery power tools.
Yeah, James Herridge won the Formula V race. Well, he actually picked up 2 wins to carry on where he left up last year. Craig Pollock was unlucky after clipping a back marker in race 1 while leading and handing the lead over. And we've got another awesome picture here. Let's have a look. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Look at that. But that said, have you seen Jonathan Elsie's picture of him getting a little bit out of shape?
Yes. Didn't
Yeah,
think to
oh
put
my
that
God.
in the podcast, but we'll have to share that.
I'll dig that picture out. But yeah, if you get a chance, check out Mr. Herridge's his social media. There's a picture of him fully like opposite lock going around the corner. It's just perfectly captured by Mr. Elsie as well. So it's brilliant.
Beautiful pictures.
Shout out to John, because obviously he takes photos of quite a few of our BRSC championships, and
Yeah.
whenever I use his photos, genuinely, John's one of those photographers where there's a lot of photographers in motorsport, but genuine, I say this with my whole heart, not just because he's a friend as well as someone who works at BRSC. Genuinely, I haven't seen John and any of his photos. I haven't seen him take a bad photo once. There is not a single bad photo on his portfolio. He's a fantastic club photographer. He's brilliant. They all are, but I get on with John, and he's brilliant. We use a lot of his bits and pieces for our sort of materials and stuff, like programs and bits and pieces, and he never disappoints when it comes to photos. He's brilliant.
Well, Nick captures the moment.
You certainly shared of a as I was saying, Nick shared the other day quite a significant moment from John Elsie. I think it was in the all-comers race. Someone lost their phone, didn't they?
I saw it.
Yeah. They did.
Oh my God! That moment of dread when you're going to pick the phone up, was it only the screen protector that was damaged? Apparently, unbelievable.
Oh really?
I thought that was in the grads at Alton Park, wasn't it?
Oh no, that was open track. That was an open track day. Someone lost their phone.
Oh right, wow.
That one was funny because the one at Cadwell Park, the marshals managed to retrieve it, but the one at Brands Hatch, I think it was Dave Woodall of Open Track, did a Facebook Live. Someone was ringing the phone, right? The phone had come out of his car at the top of Paddock Hill Bend. They found it in the gravel by the barriers.
Yeah. I still think he must have thrown it there, because there's no way it got that far coming out of an MX-5. Definitely not.
Oh. You should have seen the damage trail. There was hair products and mousse and hair dryers. It's the same. That's the problem when MX-5s go into a barrier. It's just like a bathroom having an accident. It's just products everywhere. Okay, on to Alton Park now for the last of our racing roundup. They had a Bark Northwest meeting, and we want to bring you back to Rick Walker, who was, of course, Club Racing UK's 2020 ambassador. He bagged his first class podium in the Mini, in probably one of the most competitive classes in that series. Considering the fact that in his class as well was Rick Wood's immaculate Group A Skyline. In the same class. That finished 4th overall, and Paul Rose won overall in the Seiko. We've got a photo of the grid here. Oh, yes.
Look at that. Some proper cars in there.
Bloody TCR cars are propping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look how far back it is still.
Right, the Caterham S135 was Simon Short and James McCall sharing the Sigma 135 honours. We've got a photo of them coming down Cascades. There we go. There's some nice Caterham loving for you.
Steph likes that corner.
Love that corner.
It is a great corner, but not when you've been tapped and thrown to the other side of Cheshire. Isn't that right, Steph?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to comment on it yet? Or?
Are you declining comment at this stage?
I think we've put that one to bed, really. Come on.
Yeah, we did.
I think it's been put to bed.
That's very true. Did you have to pay to get back into the circuit?
I just cut half the track out.
That's a good one.
It was an awesome lap time.
even for me, that was a good one. So, Harry Senior of Ben Winrow.
Still finished on the podium, though, didn't we?
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, we love Weybridges. Caterham Sigmax in the Sigma 150 was won by Harry Senior and Ben Winrow. 1 win apiece. Nick, yes, I'm being cheeky. Keep calm. Right. Now, we haven't got a proper partner focus this week. We've just got a little bit of an ambassador alert, and we've got the most beautiful looking Almira you will ever see, which is kind of a partner focus. So we'll start off. Amelia Vincent has finally managed to get out testing at a track that is close to Chris Dawes' heart, and he'll soon be commentating on her. I think, is she doing hot hatch or saloons?
Hot hatch.
Yes. So we have got a photo of her, hopefully, testing at Coombe. There she is.
Yes.
So that's
Getting
one
to
of the
grips with
three.
the car.
One of the 3 lucky Club Racing UK ambassadors for this year. Bless her, she managed to do 200 miles in a car, get some good laps in. Fair play to her, and we're very much looking forward to seeing her out.
I'm gutted because I think last year she was supposed to be out with the college, Wiltshire College, in open doors training, my company's colours as well as part of just not, as in I think I was going to, and I might still work with her on some media training and what have you, but it was going to be in my sort of purple and blue corporate colours, and it was a lovely surprise when the college phoned me up and said, right, we're going to do this. Are you okay with that? That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, brilliant.
It never happened. I'm gutted.
Oh, mate. Well, hopefully we'll be able to see her get some good results and get some good racing in this year in the Castle Coombe Racing Club. And our final sort of ambassador alert and partner focus, we have focused on All Square quite heavily recently. I think Chris Pratt is one of the most busiest people.
No, we bloody should. Yeah, he's a man. I don't think his feet touch the floor. I don't.
No, I don't think he does. I think he hovers.
Well, actually, he took a photo of us lot at Donington, didn't he? And he must have been floating there because he was about 40 foot up in the air. None of us know how he did it.
Yeah, exactly. But he did design. Well, he didn't. Did he design it and put it together, or did he get someone else?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
he did the lot.
He did the lot. Either way, he made Dan Cogswell's Almira look like this. Look at that.
That's pretty superb. That's great. A great looking car. That.
How cool does that look? That is a contender right there for the Club Racing UK Best Looking Club Racing Car of the Year award.
Oh yes,
that is absolutely beautiful. I love that. It's a good hardback. Let's be honest. We all live in the 90s. We loved super touring. We loved the racing, the liveries, and that just brought it all back. Absolutely stunning.
Well, the last.
Go on, Nick.
No, to say it's just cool, isn't it?
It's beautiful, and it's already got some trophies.
Yes, he has. Oh,
Steph broken set.
Yes.
He's broken set. Okay, so the last thing for me to do is speak to our guests and sort of ask them what they're getting up to. So, Scott, we'll come to you. What have the BRSCC got in store for us, mate?
Plenty. I think it's going to be another great year. I think last year was despite everything a good year for us, and I think this year we've got plenty. I think there's a lot of our championships that look as though they're in pretty good shape. I think one of the ones I think at least I'm particularly excited for a lot, which I think many people are, which has even caught us by surprise, is the new City Car Cup, which is just correct myself, Nankang Tyre City Car Cup, because they've now got title sponsorship from them. I mean, in terms of registrations, I mean, it's just popularity has gone like that. It's just gone straight up. And I know that we've already got, I think, over 30 cars booked in for the first round at Donington, which is really good. And it is a nice mix of Citroen C1s, Toyota Argos, and 107s. And for those who haven't heard of it, it's a different spec to the C1 Racing Club, where they've got gas shocks, they run on a Nankang tyre, they run on Powerflex bushes, and a couple of bits and pieces. They have an exhaust on the back. So it's they turn to the proper little micro racing cars, and they're fantastic. And anyone who's driven them has always come up with a massive smile on their face. So it's fantastic. Yeah. And to put one together, the kit's about £3,000, and you can buy a turn ready race car for £6 to £7 grand. And it's, I think, also another stat somewhere as well, where we've got a really impressive influx of novice drivers as well, who are racing on the championship and racing their first series in City Car Cup and got their ARDS test simply for the purpose of racing in the championship, which is fantastic. We talk about the 5 million Mazda MX-5s that are out there. Present as well. Again, I know particular MX-5 Championship has got, I think, some 55 registrations. Super Cups, again, exploded. That's now got 40 plus for this year, which is brilliant. Fiesta Juniors is looking great. We've kind of maintained the numbers and built a little bit on last year. We managed to turn it around. Club Sport Trophy's looking strong. That we've got about 30 odd cars for their first race at Croft. Yeah, there's also another one I have to give a shout out to as well. Hyperdrive STXR Challenge. Sorry, no, forgive me. Wrong, different sponsor. ETSL STXR Challenge. They've got, and this is incredible. They've got almost 40 registrations for them, and they're generally a Northwestern-based championship. But they're going to circuits like Snetterton and Donington. They're going to Croft for their first race. And it's surprised even Dave Fairclough, like he was telling us, he couldn't even believe the popularity. So that's looking impressive. Caterham's again looking good. There's a lot to be positive. And there's other bits and pieces working in the background for future bits and pieces, which will come through in due course. But I think all in all it's going to be good. And I think I can also say we are going to have some live streaming again this year. We haven't confirmed exactly yet which dates we're going to have in terms of putting out publicly. But there'll be a fair amount of stuff that's going to be live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. Aside from that, people who know me also, I commentate. I think I've got 3 circuit dates, and I think I've got about a few BRACC live streams to do as well. So I think all in all, we've got plenty of reasons to be positive at the club and plenty of reasons to race. And if anyone wants to find out more, there, of course, then the website is right there, BRACC.co.uk, and you can get in touch and see what we're all about. So, yeah, I think from a general point of view, we're looking pretty content and pretty satisfied. And fingers crossed it continues and we get something of a regular season, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely fantastic. I can point out, though, another championship you guys are kind of looking after that's got some massive grids coming up, the Modified Ford Series.
Yes. I'm glad you pointed that out. But yeah, we have got some new championships coming in this year. I must give a shout out to them. So you're absolutely right. Modified Fords is incredible. If I'm correct, you're bringing the focus out in a couple of those rounds this year. Am I correct?
Possibly. For Power Live. Don't know yet.
Good stuff. So Modified Fords, we've been privileged to bring Aston Martin Owners Club on board this year to look after them. Track Attack as well. We brought in. We were also looking after the British Superkart Championship, the one run by Motorsport UK. We've also got a new sports prototype series, which is the Zio Proto Cup, which is looked after by Duncan Williams, who used to race in sports prototypes before. So it's him and his daughter Grace who are looking after it as well. And the only other thing we've got is we've obviously created another Amex 5 Championship, which is the Clubman Championship, and that's a one-day, 2-race format for those who want something a little bit different in terms of logistics and cost effectiveness in some cases. So yeah, they're all looking superb and all progressing nicely. But yeah, I'm personally a bit of a fast Ford fan myself, and I've seen a number of cars that are starting to register for that. And even if you keep track of their social media, and it's blown me away. Even the variety, there's all sorts of different cars. There's a guy who's got a modern day, like current gen Mustang involved. There's a guy with an RS200 that's got it on the grid. There's all manner of. There's a Ford Puma which looks like it should be a cross between. I don't know. It's got like a touring car and a Pikes Peak car with a front splitter. I could eat my dinner off. It's amazing. There's so much variety, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. So yeah, all good. And yeah, first event May 8th and 9th, Donington Park. So yeah.
I think they've got 42 cars entered for that. I think last I saw, 42 cars for that round.
Looking forward
to it. Quite phenomenal. Okay, finally, Chris Dawes, what have you got coming up?
I've got the weekend off.
More gin.
Weekend. Yeah, exactly. You know it. I've got to go and grow some more. Weekend off this weekend, but then the following weekend, which is the first bank holiday of May, I've got Brands Hatch on the Saturday, which includes GT Cup and the Caterham 7 series are there as well, possibly Radicals from memory on the GP circuit on the Saturday. It was due to be a 2-day meet with the GT World Challenge Europe there. Thankfully, I haven't lost that completely. That's later in the year now, and have been booked for the 1 day on the Saturday. GT Cup stayed there, and then Monday, Castle Combe. Obviously, the behind closed doors busy weekend, which does include some MX-5s, but from another place, and some BMWs as well. So that's enough said. But the following weekend, back to Brands Hatch again. On the GP circuit, I can't remember what's there on that one, to be honest with you. Following weekend, hosting Castle Combe Racing School, where people get to actually go out on circuit and be instructed how to take the racing lines there. Great experience. I love doing that because they're always nervous / excited in equal measures. Following weekend, 22nd, Spring Action Day at Castle Combe. And then the following weekend, very busy, bank holiday. Saturday, Sunday, I'm at Brands Hatch for the Masters Historic Festival. covering Formula One cars and Le Mans cars and touring cars of bygone eras around the GP circuit, Saturday, Sunday, then back to cover Coombe on Monday. So it's a rather busy May, to say the least.
That's good. That's what we like, though, isn't it? I mean, we're all a bit bored of sitting around not doing a lot, so let's go to be busy.
Exactly, yeah, too right.
And that takes us to this weekend, because you two will be at Donington Park, won't you?
Yeah, we will.
Is it this weekend? Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. Enduro KA 5. It's the 5 hours, isn't it? Mighty KA's out.
Are you guys doing the whole season in the Enduro KAs?
Yeah.
I'm covering the 12-hour of Norfolk.
Oh, what? Do you mean the one that we won last year?
I wouldn't know because I wasn't there for that one.
Well, we've not mentioned it much, but we did win that event last year.
I would have picked it up if I was on the mic, mate. You know I would have. But
feel free.
That title again this year.
Yeah, we're coming for it. It'll look good next to me other trophy.
Okay, well, after another 2-hour packed show tonight, it only leaves us to say goodbye. So thanks again, massive thanks to Chris Dawes and Scott Woodwiss for coming on. Cheers, guys.
No worries.
Massive thanks to Nick Holmes and Stefan Marsh once again for sitting alongside us to present the Club Racing UK podcast. I've been your host, Robert Lewis. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.
Buy some merch.